If you're planning your grocery shopping for the next few months, you need to hear this first. 8 essential food items are about to become significantly harder to find and more expensive than you've ever seen them. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly which items are facing critical shortages, the real reasons behind each shortage, and most importantly, what you can do right now to prepare your household before these shortages hit full force. Welcome to Food Fixer, where we keep you ahead of the curve on everything food-related. If this information helps you prepare and save money, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more essential food insights that could save you hundreds of dollars. Let's start with something that's going to hit your wallet hard: beef. The beef industry is facing one of its most challenging periods in decades, and it all traces back to the devastating droughts that hammered Texas and other major cattle-producing regions throughout 2022. These weren't just ordinary dry spells. We're talking about extreme weather conditions that forced ranchers to make impossible decisions. When drought strikes cattle country, ranchers face a brutal choice: either spend massive amounts of money trucking in water and feed from hundreds of miles away, or reduce their herds immediately. Most chose the latter, which means fewer cattle were bred last year, and that shortage is hitting the market right now. The beef you're seeing in stores today comes from cattle that were planned and bred 2 to 3 years ago. This isn't a temporary blip. We're looking at significantly reduced beef availability for the next 18 to 24 months, with prices potentially rising 30 to 50% above current levels. But it's not just everyday protein that's becoming scarce. Champagne, yes, champagne, is facing a supply crisis that's called get even industry experts off guard. The combination of explosive post-pandemic demand and weather disasters in France's Champagne regions has created a perfect storm. As the world reopened after lockdowns, everyone wanted to celebrate, and champagne sales skyrocketed beyond anything producers had planned for. Meanwhile, the Champagne region of France experienced some of its worst weather in decades. Late spring frost destroyed entire vineyards worth of grapes, followed by unusual hailstorms and then extreme heat waves. Champagne production requires specific grape varieties grown in very specific conditions, and you can't just replace French champagne grapes with alternatives. The bottles hitting shelves now were made from grapes harvested 3 to 4 years ago, so this shortage is going to persist well into 2024. If you're planning any celebrations, you might want to stock up now because prices are already climbing and availability is becoming spotty. Now let's talk about something that affects your daily meals. Lettuce. You've probably already noticed that fresh lettuce has become more expensive and sometimes hard to find. And unfortunately, it's about to get much worse. California produces about 70% of America's lettuce, and their farms are being devastated by something called the necrotic spot virus. This virus spreads rapidly through lettuce crops, causing the leaves to develop dark spots and eventually rot. Unlike other plant diseases, there's no effective treatment once a field is infected. Farmers have to destroy entire crops and leave fields empty for extended periods to break the virus cycle. The virus has spread across major growing regions in California, and it's not something that goes away quickly. Combined with rising costs for water, labor, and transportation, lettuce production costs have nearly doubled. What makes this particularly challenging is that lettuce doesn't store well and can't be easily imported from distant locations. Most of the lettuce in your grocery store was harvested within the past week. This shortage is hitting restaurants especially hard, and you're going to see salad prices increase significantly over the next few months. But fresh produce isn't the only thing becoming scarce. Canned drinks and canned food products are facing a double shortage that most people haven't even noticed yet. First, there's an aluminum shortage, the pan. Pandemic disrupted aluminum production and recycling systems globally, and demand has surged as people stock up on canned goods. Aluminum cans require specialized manufacturing, and you can't just quickly build new aluminum processing plants. The second problem is carbon dioxide. Yes, the gas that makes your soda fizzy and is used in food packaging. Carbon dioxide for food use comes primarily from industrial processes like fertilizer production. With fertilizer plants reducing production due to high energy costs and supply chain issues, food-grade carbon dioxide has become surprisingly scarce. This affects everything from carbonated beverages to packaged salads that use carbon dioxide to extend shelf life. The combination of these two shortages means canned drinks, canned vegetables, and even some fresh packaged foods are becoming more expensive and harder to find. Energy drinks, soda, canned soups, and canned vegetables are all affected. This isn't temporary. Building new aluminum processing capacity and carbon dioxide production facilities takes years. Even more concerning are the cooking oil shortages that are rippling through every corner of the food system. Ukraine and Russia together produce over 60% of the world's sunflower oil, and the ongoing conflict has brought that production to a near standstill. Sunflower oil isn't just used for cooking. It's in processed foods, baked goods, snack foods, and restaurant cooking. Palm oil, which comes primarily from Southeast Asia, is also facing shortages due to labor shortages, weather problems, and increased demand as people try to substitute it for sunflower oil. These oils can't be easily replaced because they have specific properties that matter for food production. Sunflower oil has a neutral taste and high smoke point that makes it ideal for frying. Palm oil remains solid at room temperature, which is crucial for many baked goods and processed foods. The shortage is forcing food manufacturers to reformulate products, and restaurants are having to change their cooking methods. Prices for cooking oils have already tripled in some markets, and there's no quick fix because establishing new oil production takes years of agricultural development. This brings us to bread and wheat products, which face perhaps the most serious shortage of all. Ukraine and Russia combined produce about 30% of the world's wheat exports. Ukraine alone was responsible for feeding over 400 million people worldwide before the conflict began. The war hasn't just stopped this year's wheat production. It has destroyed farming infrastructure, displaced agricultural workers, and made it impossible to plant crops for next year. This isn't just about bread in grocery stores. Wheat is in pasta, crackers, cereals, baked goods, and even used as an ingredient in processed foods you wouldn't expect. The global wheat market was already tight before the conflict, with many countries maintaining minimal reserves. Countries that previously relied on Ukrainian and Russian wheat are now competing with everyone else for limited supplies from Canada, the United States, and Australia. What makes this particularly challenging is that wheat production can't be quickly increased. Farmers need to plan wheat crops a year in advance, and you can't just convert other types of farmland to wheat production overnight. Even if the conflict ended tomorrow, it would take years to restore Ukraine's agricultural capacity. Bread and pasta prices are expected to increase by 40 to 60% over the next year, and some specialty products may become temporarily unavailable. Corn is facing its own crisis, though for different reasons. The American Midwest, which produces most of the country's corn, experienced some of the most extreme weather in recent memory. Severe droughts in some areas were followed by flooding in others, creating perfect conditions for pest infestations that destroyed crops across multiple states. Corn isn't just the corn on the cob you eat. It's cattle feed, chicken feed, pig feed, and it's processed into corn syrup, cornstarch, and ethanol. When corn becomes scarce and expensive, it drives up the cost of meat, dairy, processed foods, and even gasoline. The livestock industry is particularly vulnerable because there aren't good alternatives to corn for animal feed. The pest problems that hit corn crops this year include armyworms and corn rootworms that have developed resistance to previously effective treatments. These pests can destroy entire fields in a matter of days, and they're spreading to areas that haven't seen these problems before. Climate change is allowing these pests to survive in regions where cold winters previously kept them under control. Finally, we have orange juice, which is facing what industry experts are calling a catastrophic shortage. Florida pros. Juice is about 70% of America's orange juice, and the state's citrus industry has been hit by a 1-2 punch that's devastating. Hurricane Ian destroyed thousands of acres of orange groves, knocking fruit off trees and damaging irrigation systems. But even before the hurricane, Florida's orange industry was struggling with a disease called citrus greening. Citrus greening is spread by tiny insects called Asian citrus psyllids, and once a tree is infected, there's no cure. The disease causes oranges to become bitter and unusable, and eventually kills the tree. Over half of Florida's orange trees are now infected, and the disease is spreading faster than new trees can be planted. It takes 5 to 7 years for a new orange tree to produce commercial quantities of fruit, so even massive replanting efforts wouldn't solve the shortage for years. The combination of hurricane damage and citrus greening means Florida's orange production has dropped to levels not seen since the 1940s. Orange juice prices have already doubled in many markets, and they're expected to continue climbing. Some brands are already reducing the size of their containers while keeping prices the same, and pure orange juice may become a luxury item for many families. What makes all of these shortages particularly challenging is that they're happening simultaneously. In normal times, shortages in one area might be offset by abundance in others, but we're seeing supply chain disruptions across multiple essential food categories at once. This creates a compounding effect where each shortage makes the others worse. So what can you do to prepare? First, consider gradually building up reasonable reserves of non-perishable items that your family regularly uses, especially canned goods, cooking oils, and grain products like pasta and rice. Don't hoard. That makes shortages worse for everyone. But having a few weeks' worth of staples can help you avoid panic buying when shortages hit your local stores. Second, consider diversifying your protein sources. If beef becomes too expensive, familiarize yourself with cooking chicken, fish, beans, and other alternatives. Learn some new recipes now while ingredients are still available for experimentation. Third, stay flexible with your meal planning. The brands and specific products you're used to buying may not always be available. Having a repertoire of recipes that can work with substitute ingredients will serve you well. Most importantly, stay informed about these developing situations. Food shortages don't happen overnight. They build gradually, and being aware of the warning signs can help you make better decisions about shopping and meal planning. These shortages represent serious challenges, but they're not permanent disasters. Markets eventually adapt, farmers plant different crops, and supply chains find new routes. However, adaptation takes time, and prices may remain elevated for months or even years in some cases. If this information was helpful in preparing you for what's coming, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Food Fixer for more essential updates on food trends, shortages, and money-saving tips. What shortage are you most concerned about? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll keep you updated as these situations develop.